What's up, everyone? Welcome to the TSV Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Archuleta. I got my TSV Sports people with me, Jasper Lindsay, Steven Risotto, Marco Miliani, and Ai Chang.
It's Milani.
Marco Milani, you got it. All right, so let's start out with the NFL. And last night, Monday Night Football was a pretty solid game. It was the first game in Las Vegas at the new Allegiant Stadium, and the Raiders were able to pull out with a win. I turn it over to Jasper. What did you see from the game? And the Raiders 2-0. Are you buying into them?
All right. I mean, first off, obviously, we got to talk Darren Waller. This guy is a monster. The passes he caught and the moves he put on afterwards, he is the fastest tight end in the NFL. I think he reminds me of Vernon Davis, honestly, just a guy who could put out in the slot and just have run downfield. The Raiders weren't able to get the deep shots they needed to Henry Ruggs, which is a bummer. Josh Jacobs looked great again for a second straight week. But I think the biggest story of this game is Derek Carr. Derek Carr is back. I love this guy. He is throwing touchdowns. He is efficient. And when Derek Carr is playing well, John Gruden's happy, and that's all that matters for the Raiders. If you can keep John Gruden happy, the Raiders win. Honestly, I think with a big game against the Saints, I think this proves that the Raiders have they can go somewhere this year, honestly. Drew Brees did look a step behind. I was ready to see Jameis Winston come in and throw 5 interceptions. But, other than that, I thought the Raiders looked good. There's definitely some improvement for the defense that needs to happen, but as of now, I like them as a team.
Yeah, no doubt. It doesn't get any easier, though, as they go to New England in week 3. But, for sure, a solid start. I do have Darren Waller on my fantasy team, and even though he didn't get me a win this week, he for sure did enough, for everyone to start looking at him as maybe a top 5 tight end. But, it is kind of remarkable knowing, his career and how, he didn't know what he was going to be doing with his life, like a year and a half ago. Now, he's turned into quite a star. Let's turn over now to the Niners-Jets game on Sunday. And even though they got the win, quite comfortably, a handful of injuries to quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, now they're saying Tevin Coleman. And then on the defensive end, both Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa are out with torn ACLs. To anyone that wants to take this, do we even see the 49ers being – we'll skip ahead with, a Super Bowl contender, but can they even contend in their own NFC West?
Maybe. They just signed Ziggy Ansah finally. Third time's the charm, I guess. But they also have Deion Jordan. From what I'm hearing, Kerry Hyder's becoming an absolute stud. The secondary is still at least semi-decent. And, we've seen Nick Mullins produce before. So if Garoppolo goes down, they'll be in good hands.
Yeah, honestly. What you see with Nick Mullins is him and Garoppolo are both game managers. They're both nothing special. So they can fit into Kyle Shanahan's offense just fine. As long as they can keep the run game going, I don't think they should see too many problems on the way. But, obviously the injuries to their defensive line are tough.
With Jared McKinnon, I think they have a good running game. And if they promote JaMychal Hasty off the practice squad, which I'm hoping they do, the Baylor guy, they'll have a really, really good run game to go off with. And they still have Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the offense at all. I think it is more with the defense because you have a secondary right now that even though Richard Sherman isn't around, it seems like every team now is just going to keep attacking Ahkello Witherspoon as much as they can. And we even saw that with the Jets. He gave up 7 catches on 8 passes thrown his way, including that touchdown at the end in garbage time. But we all know this defense started with the defensive line. And if they're not getting to the quarterback at all, and if they're not creating any pressures, who knows what even happens to this defense at all. but they do have some favorable matchups coming up. You know, they stay in New York playing the Giants, then they come home, play the Eagles, and then the Miami Dolphins. Is there any hope at all that they can at least go, 3 wins in this upcoming stretch here?
Most definitely. But I do have actually another question. Do you think we see Javon Kinlaw being moved to defensive end because of these injury concerns?
It's a possibility, but I think at this point they're looking for anything at this point. I mean, out of productivity, he has been good as a nose tackle, but they also have DJ Jones, who has solidified that spot maybe for himself. If Kinlaw can switch over to either side, I don't think they would really mind that. But with him still learning, with only 2 games under his belt, no preseason, it's a tough ask, but anything is possible with him. He is a bit of a freak of nature.
What did you guys think about the turf? Because that was a big topic of discussion post-game.
Oh, my gosh. I would not be surprised if I saw them protest next week's game because of the turf. They were complaining about it pretty heavy after the game. But I think a lot of this just comes down to no preseason. You're seeing a lot of these injuries come because guys aren't they're not at the point they'd like to be. I mean, honestly, you saw huge guys go down, like Saquon. You've seen, like, the ACL was the injury of the weekend. Like, obviously, if you're not getting conditioned and you're not getting those practice reps, you're not going to be able to handle that much force coming down on you.
Yeah. I hopefully, they can go into this Giants game without any more injuries, because that would just be brutal. And then also for the Giants as well. But it did seem a little suspicious, given that Armstead, went on Twitter saying it was, it needs to be changed, and a couple players said it was sticky and whatnot. It was only the second game being played there with Pittsburgh and the Giants playing in that Monday night doubleheader. Not a lot of injuries came from that, but it is very interesting to see what does happen moving forward. And, we can only hope that no more injuries for both teams come from it.
I think I saw something yesterday, though, that the NFL did put an investigation into that field, and it met all the conditions, met all the standards. So just weird. Probably coincidence, maybe, but who knows?
Yeah, it's something to just keep an eye on going into Sunday. All right, let's shift over to baseball now. San Francisco Giants, at the time of this recording, they are a half game back of the 8th and final wild card spot, just behind the Phillies, tied with the Milwaukee Brewers at 26 and 27. A huge stretch of games coming up this weekend, all at Oracle Park, which maybe is a bit of a silver lining for them, maybe. Steven, I turn it to you now. Any chance that this Giants team can get it together and possibly get a wild card spot?
Well, yeah, I think there is a chance if they're half a game back. Like you said, these next stretch of games are going to be super important. They play a team, and they have a series coming up. I believe it's a 4-game series against San Diego, who, I mean, if you've been living under a rock, you might have not seen how their season's been going. They've been one of the more fun watches in the game. I don't know. It's going to come down to their pitching. We know they score enough runs. They have like the 5th best OPS in baseball, I think. But they're going to win games and they're going to lose games on the mound. But I think it would be an awesome story to see the Giants sneak into that 8th seed and try to upset the Dodgers, because it's kind of interesting because Giants are horrible. They're way below 500 against teams above 500. So they're not good against winning teams, but most of their wins have actually they have 4 wins against the Dodgers this year. So that's kind of interesting. That would kind of spice things up with that series. It would be a cool story to see the best team in baseball get upset by a Giants team that was expected to come into spring training as one of the worst teams on paper in their franchise history. And here they are, full of a ton of complimentary and platoon guys. It would be a really cool story. But to answer the question, I'd say that they do have a chance. It's also gonna have to do with a lot of scoreboard watching during these games because, like you mentioned, Brewers are involved, other teams are involved, Reds. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch here these last few games.
Yeah, no doubt. You did mention just how huge it would be for them to make the postseason. Going into the season, like even me, I was as skeptical as anyone. New manager, new players. Entirely different bullpen, and the fact that everything has bought in, with the hitters and, it seems like the bullpen has come into fruition compared to how they were that crazy stretch of 4 games against the A's and then in Anaheim. But it is truly something. But, in the 60 games, this just shows that anything can happen. But like you said, really the pitching is going to determine these next handful of games. And you never know if they do make it. We have seen like this team is kind of built to beat the Dodgers in a way, given that they have all these right-handed bats. It's like they're just waiting for Kershaw, they're waiting for Urias, they're waiting for any other lefty hand.
And also just to add on, the veteran guys have been outstanding this year. I think Longoria's hitting high 290s, 300. Belt has been on the hottest stretch of his life. Crawford, who almost never hits, he had like the worst weighted runs created plus in baseball last year among qualified shortstops. He's starting to heat it up a little bit. So some of the veteran guys have really bought into the narrative that this team could have something. I mean, granted, it's 60 games, expanded playoffs. They've been around 500. It's nothing special, but anytime you get a chance to make the playoffs is kind of interesting.
Not to mention that,
go ahead, Marco.
Not to mention that Yaz is having a career year, and he's hitting like nobody's ever hit before. It's absolutely incredible. I've watched a couple of games, and my jaw just drops because he can just hit. He's just hitting the ball consistently. If I was playing that beat the streak game that they had a couple of years ago, which unfortunately that shut down this year, I would pick him every single week because he's that consistent.
Yeah, that's right. All right, go ahead, Jasper.
Yeah, honestly though, like the last 2 weeks of the MLB season are the most obscure 2 weeks, I think, in all of sports. Because you got good teams taking their foot off the gas a little bit because they're focusing on the playoffs. You got bubble teams playing the best baseball of their life. And then you got bad teams out to be dream killers. And right now the Rockies are trying to be dream killers. They're out here trying to ruin the Giants season because theirs is already lost. So, I mean, I think you may see the Rockies and Giants season come down to the wire, but I would not be surprised if you saw the Giants take on San Diego because they want to get some rest for their pitchers and just really give them a fight. So that's why I think it's very much possible for the Giants to get into the playoffs, but they really got to buckle down against these Rockies because they will bite you if you take your foot off.
That's right. And then, just to put a bow on this, like, I don't think anyone could have, even asked for this. Like, we're down to the last handful of games, and the Giants are right there. Like, who thought that? Like, no one saw that coming. And just me personally, like, this is what it's all about. It's like you want to be playing meaningful games this late into September. It's not your typical season, but the fact that you are right there, you're pretty much already playing playoff games, and it's been just great to watch even them. But hopefully Yaz does get back from his little calf injury. I saw Dickerson had X-rays last night that came back negative. Could only just hope for the best with them. All right, finally, let's end this with the NBA. What a crazy way to end Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. A big three-pointer by Anthony Davis to lift the Lakers over the Nuggets and take a 2-0 lead. Turn now to Alvin Chang. What else can we see from the Nuggets? Are their hearts pretty much just ripped out compared to the Lakers right now, who are soaring?
I don't think so because, as everybody know, the Nuggets play. I mean, in this season in the playoff, they already played against the Utah Jazz and um, and LA Clippers. So throughout that 7-game series, I think the Clippers still can make. No, the Nuggets can still play the chemistry for their team, and also I think Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I mean, they play pretty good like chemistry for the Nuggets. So I don't think the Lakers can strike 4-0 in this series.
Yeah, it just overall, like, I don't see the Nuggets, falling anymore. Like, they are gonna try to fight their hardest. We have seen it, in the past 2 series is against, Utah and the Clippers. Anyone else here think the Lakers close it out in 4, or do we see 5 or 6 games, possibly even 7?
It needs
4
to.
to 5. I
It
mean,
needs to, sorry.
honestly,
go ahead.
Denver is gassed. They have played back-to-back 7-game series. I don't think they have it left in the tank. I mean, they were able to beat the Clippers because the Clippers couldn't stop Jokic, but you have Anthony Davis on the Lakers, who, by the way, this team is Anthony Davis's team now. You saw him take the last shot. LeBron did not want that last shot. This is Anthony Davis's team. Anthony Davis wants his championship. He's going to get it this year. I mean, the Nuggets, I don't think they have anything left in the tank. And, I mean, Jamal has played his heart out. Like, valiant effort by them, but they are just done.
I think the Nuggets need to win. The state of Colorado needs some type of hope because the Avalanche blew it. The Rockies haven't been anything. All they have left is the Nuggets. If not, they're cursed.
Yeah, especially even, with the Broncos, Drew Lock going down with the injury, just terrible. Just like they wanted sports to come back in Denver. They probably didn't want it to go this way. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for tuning in. Follow the Skyline View on Twitter and on Instagram, as well as our handles, as you can see below. And we'll see you next week on the TSV Sports Show.